How's everyone doing today? Well, today, I'll admit I'm kind of doing something I generally don't like to do. I'm going to do an unboxing slash what to get first video for Innisphere side. I've had this question a lot with my game group, and I'm sure there's a lot of people running around out there online trying to find starter games and what to get first, and here's my take on it here. I would first start with these two boxes, the beginner box and a game of Armored Combat. Between the two of them, it'll give you 10 mechs, it'll give you a rulebook, it'll give you a bunch of little standees, and it'll give you maps. Plus also, I generally want to start here because these mechs can be used in any era. I mean, some of the ones, like the Shadowhawk and the Commando, you can go all the way back to the Age of War when mechs were first starting out. I oftentimes see people who get a little enamored with the clan mechs and what they can do. And they kind of forget, they're not necessarily good for all eras. I mean, it's only 3050 and beyond, which kind of leaves out in my opinion, the best part of the setting. I mean, when I first started, I kind of got started with the books, in particular the Warrior trilogy, but then the Great Death Legion, and to me, that's always epitomized the setting. The idea of basically this world of a fallen civilization trying to scrape together and survive. And then to see the beginning of the Renaissance with the third Great Death Legion book. But I also think it's the most fun to play as far as like a mercenary company and such, where you're kind of scraping by on salvage and maybe like a garrison contract or two to start out. All right. Let's start digging into these here. Okay, with the beginner box. Get a little razor knife here. This one only comes with 2 mechs, but it also is only a $20 buy-in. But it gives you, as I said, 2 mechs, maps, dice, and standees. It also gives you Alpha Strike cards, I think. I don't remember. Yeah, it does. It also gives you a little short story by William H. Keith, who he also was the writer of the Grey Death books. And this has to do with the main protagonist of that series' father and some of his adventures. Comes with these little half record sheets. Gives you the weapons, the ranges, ammunition, and armor as far as to hit. It doesn't do heat, doesn't do structure, doesn't do criticals. Instead, it's kind of the most base of the game. The aforementioned Alpha Strike cards, dice, a Griffin, which is a great starter support mech, and a Wolverine, which is an absolutely fantastic brawler, probably the best of its era in 3025. Comes with the quick start rules, kind of a basic rule book, a primer, basically kind of a little story about the setting, an advertisement for Ironwind Metals. They are the ones who actually make the metal versions of the mechs. I wouldn't recommend starting to order them right away. In fact, actually, I'd go for vehicles first from them. As you can't get those yet in plastic. Standees. I mean, literally, you could literally play with jelly beans if you needed to, but it's kind of nice to have something visual. It also comes with little punch outs for expanded terrain. Of course, it comes with a two-sided map here. Well, these aren't the nice neoprene ones. These are just kind of plastic. Well, paper. One side being a desert map. The other kind of being kind of a flatline forest. It's enough to get you started. Enough to get your feet wet. As far as actually playing the game, I'd go on to the next one. Now, this is a bit more advanced than the beginner box, and a bit more of an investment. And they're really hard to find right now, although Catalyst is doing another print. I had to raid my local Barnes & Nobles for this one. But this is the Game of Armor Combat. You could literally get this box, and you would have everything you need to actually play. It comes with a full rule book, although it's paperback, and to be honest, I like the one that, I mean, if you can afford it, I like the hardcover one. Well, let's dig in and show off what's inside here. Alpha Strike cards. Another short story by William H. Keith. Kind of a continuation of the other one. Dice. Alright, mechs. First one here, we got our Shadowhawk. This was a hero mech for the first part of the Grey Death Legion books. It's not a bad leader for Scout Lances. It's pretty versatile in its firepower. It's got something for all ranges. It just comes up a little short when it goes off against something bigger. But it's a good mech to kind of get your feet wet with, and as I said, it's not a bad mech at all to put with your light mechs. You got a Thunderbolt. This one honestly might be the most important mech in this box set. It's a classic trooper mech. It's got a weapon for all ranges. It's tough. And it'll teach you how to basically manage a heat curve. It's a mech that if you fire all your weapons at once, you're going to light up like a Roman candle. But let's say you're in short range. It's got a nice medium laser suite. It's got 3 of them. And then it's got machine guns, as well as SRMs. You can fire those at close range, no problem. A little further range, you got your LRM launcher up on the shoulder here. And on the right arm, a large laser. You fire those 2 at long range, you're fine. Problem is when you start mixing the large laser in the medium suite, then you start spiking your heat and you can cause some problems. But this is a great mainline battle mech, and for heavies, it's one of the ones I do recommend to learn on. This one comes with another Wolverine. As said, it's a fantastic trooper mech. No matter what, you're going to find use for 2 of them. It's too good. Catapult. LRM support mech. Also has a medium laser suite that's great for get close range. It has jump jets, so it can displace and get out of a sticky situation very easily. But it's one you kind of want to put behind your main lines and just let fly the LRMs. Only use the medium mechs or the medium lasers if they come to you. Commando. In my light video, I mentioned this is one of my favorites. It is a fantastic striker. It's not a terrible scout. It does have a little bit of a learning curve to it. It's probably one of the tougher mechs in this box set to play, because you can get yourself trapped and dead very easily. The Locust. Again, in my light video, it's one of my favorite scouts. It's fast. It's fairly well armored. It's kind of geared more towards combined arms as far as its firepower, and it's only got a medium laser and 2 machine guns. I mean, you get in someone's back, especially light mechs, they're going to feel it. You deal with an infantry nest, they're going to feel it too. But generally, if you're dealing with a heavy or above, you're going to want to cut and run. I mean, you might break the back armor of a medium, but it's a fantastic mech. It just has its limitations when dealing with something bigger than it. The Awesome. What can I say? It lives up to its name. 3 PPCs, small laser. This mech is a consummate sniper, and it's also what's known as a zombie. This thing could take horrific punishment and just keep on going. You find basically there's a rhythm to actually playing it. Generally, you want to find a nice kind of spot to just post up in woods or something. It's got great armor. You can just trade shots from there. And generally with 3 PPCs, it's generally going to win that fight. Battlemaster. This is a frontline assault and also frontline command mech. It's got a PPC on approach, 4 medium lasers, 2 machine guns, and an SRM pack. It also has 2 medium lasers on the behind. It's a 4/6 mover. It's fairly fast for what it is. It's got great armor. Firepower is a little anemic against its own class, but it does very well against things smaller than that. Plus also, once you get into, especially the melee range, I mean, you got 9 damage punches. Yeah, that's, in addition to the medium laser suite and the SRMs, they're going to feel that. This one comes with a more comprehensive primer. It's got information about the setting, the inner sphere, all the houses, the Star League. Also talks about the Mercenary Review Board. And it also goes over some of the rule books and such. The Armored Combat Rulebook. This is a paperback version of the entire mech rules. As said, this box is self-contained. You can play with just what's in here. You got record sheets. Generally, if you're going to actually use this, only use pencil. Otherwise, if you got a copier with a scanner, or printer with a scanner, just print some copies. But this has every mech that's in here. And actually, it has the 2 from the battle box too. We got 2 paper maps, 2 grassland, 1 desert, and I'm trying to remember what this one is. Okay, it is another desert version. Okay, so 2 deserts, 2 grassland. Comes with a cheat sheet, which has all the charts on it, and more standees and more terrain alters. I definitely recommend going to this box set and the battle box. If you can afford both, fantastic. That's pretty much everything you need to play really to start out. But oftentimes you're eventually going to want to extend your forces a little bit here. And that's oftentimes where I get the where to go next. Alright, this is the Innersphere Battle Lance. This probably is the first one after the box sets you're going to want to expand into. This one has 2 heavies, a light, and a medium. All are very playable, although admittedly the Warhammer does require a little bit of skill. Or rather, the Rifleman, excuse me. Okay, there it is. Okay. These box sets come with mechs and also their cards. They also come with pilot cards if you want to do those. They'll have some special abilities on them. Start out with a Warhammer, 70-ton heavy, 2 PPCs, SRM6, 2 medium lasers, 2 small lasers, and 2 machine guns. Also has a searchlight, so if you're doing a night scenario, it has the advantage of that. This oftentimes has had the reputation of being an ISIS mech. Hero characters such as Natasha Kerensky and Yorinaga Kurita piloted these. They're deadly from long range and short. It does have the weakness, though, of weak leg armor. But don't let that stop you from playing it. Rifleman. A lot of firepower. It's a support. Also, if you're playing aircraft, anti-air capability. 2 AC-5s, 2 large lasers, 2 medium lasers. And unfortunately, not enough heat sinks to run them. It's a mech you kind of want to sit back, fire the ACs, hoping you crit something. And then if something gets too close, you burn it with the lasers. And you can't be afraid of spiking your heat with this mech, but at the same time, you have to know when. It's kind of a little bit of a skill playing mech, but sometimes that's actually very good to learn on. Phoenix Hawk. It's a medium, 45-tonner. It's also quite fast. It's a 6.96 movement. Armed with a large laser, 2 mediums, 2 machine guns. Generally, you want to play this either in Heavy Scout, Scout Hunter role. It can do the trooper job a little bit, but if it takes too much damage, you want to run. It is one of the, in my opinion, it's one of the better skirmishers, especially 30-25. When you start getting into the clan era, there are some very good variants. Some that double up on the large laser, some that use pulse lasers. But it kind of gets relegated completely to a striker role in later times. It's still one of my favorite mediums. I mean, you learn very quickly, hey, no one wants to take a large laser to the back, and it can do it very easily. All right, last but not least, the Wasp. Why would you want this thing, you'd ask? It's only got a medium laser and an SRM2. Well, it's not a terrible scout. The armor's pretty light. But the thing is, they're cheap. If you're running that big awesome with a pilot, with an absolute badass as a pilot, sometimes you're running out of points. And a mech for 300 points, not always a bad buy, especially if you're just playing mechs. I mean, you generally, when fighting, you want to add your firepower to something bigger. Like, let's say if you're got a Warhammer or Marauder or something like that, you kind of want to tag up with that bigger mech and see if you can't crit something with its smaller weapons. Because ultimately, when engaged with something bigger, they're going to often the triumphs, unless it absolutely makes a target of itself, people are just going to ignore it. And that could be their own peril. Plus, also, if anybody's playing the Destiny RPG or the RPG combined with the board game, or just running a campaign, militia. After all, everyone needs something to stomp. Okay, next one I'd probably get. Inner Spear Command Lance. This one's got 2 very important heavies and 2 lights. Okay, there we go. Okay, again, like all of them, Alpha Strike cards and pilots. Now the mechs themselves. Archer. Oftentimes used as a command mech in the setting, especially at 3025. Main armament 2 LRM-20s, and it has 4 medium lasers, 2 of them facing rear. It's a mech that wants to hang back, even though it's got heavy armor. And it wants to just lay into people with their LRMs. Even at tough, well, you kind of only want to play close range if on defense. If you got that mech that kind of got through the lines and such, it's still a 70-tonner. Its punches are going to hurt, as well as its kicks. As someone once told me, it is a master of mech foo, and they're not kidding. But it is a little vulnerable to back attacks, especially if the opponent gets the initiative. But that's the Archer. Marauder. Probably my favorite mech. Now, people call, left torso, ammunition explosion, due to it being the only thing there. But generally, the armor's not that bad at all. And side torsos are a little light. But especially if you get the left torso wounded, oftentimes you just want to turn to the side and just rely on torso twist for firing while you're trying to drop the ammo. It's got 2 PPCs, 2 medium lasers, and an AC-5 in its primary configuration. Has the reputation of being command mech. Also, it's oftentimes been another ace mech. Grayson Carlisle of the Great Death Legion. He pilots one late in his career. The Bounty Hunter made it absolutely infamous. Also, the Red Duke, Hasid Recall, who was the main villain of the Grey Death, he piloted one as well. And as said, I use it kind of as my avatar in my channels, and I just love the look of the profile, and it's a good performer if you know how to play it, although it takes a little bit of skill too. Stinger. Wasp brethren in kind, as far as being Malcross Valkyries. 1 medium laser, 2 machine guns. Not very much armor. 6'9", 6 speed. Again, another scout mech. It's great for militia, especially with the machine guns being crowd control and such. It's not a terrible scout, but again, it's there kind of to die. Valkyrie. This is also a light favorite. One medium laser, one LRM-10. 5.85 speed. It's a little slower. It'll still scout very well, but it fights completely different than any of the other bugs. Oftentimes, you're going to want to jump between the hills, and you're going to want to try to just harry an opponent with the LRMs. Once it's out, you run. But it doesn't do a bad job for artillery spotting and joining in. It's LRM fire for a light lance. Wow, tongue-tied. But that's the Valkyrie. Okay. This is oftentimes where you get kind of divergent opinion here. I look at it, you got a lot of lights, you got some heavies, you got a lot of mediums between the two box sets, but you don't get a lot of assaults. This is where I would go next, the direct fire lance. This one has the Atlas, Marauder 2, Crusader, and Orion. These mechs are some heavy metal. In fact, actually, that's the entire theme of this box set is heavy armor. Again, like all the rest, it's got Alpha Strike cards and pilots. Atlas. 100-tonner. One of the two original big boys. LRM 20, SRM 6, 4 medium lasers, 2 facing rear, and an AC 20. This is a mech that's going to anchor formations, kick open doors on fortress objectives, and hold the line when nothing else can. It's not a mech you're just going to want to deploy in the field. I mean, the LRM-20, it's kind of poor as far as long-range fire. But if you've got an objective that needs to be, that you need to actually throw an assault at, this is one of the two mechs you want to do it with. Rather, 3. Marauder 2. This kind of was a late addition. It's kind of been retconned in as far as the Dragoons and, well, Welsh Dragoons and where it's been deployed since, but it's basically a much bigger Marauder. It's a 100-tonner, 353 speed, 2 PPCs, 2 medium lasers, and a large laser. Also, a lot of heat sinks that actually can handle it. A lot of armor. It's another line breaker mech or line holder. This one you can get away with a little bit in playing it in the field. Alright, it's also got 2 more heavies, but I do say they're important. The Orion. This one's got an LRM-15. 2 medium lasers, an SRM-4, and an AC-10. Kind of a smaller Atlas, if you will. It's got really heavy armor, horribly underrated firepower. It's going to hold a line. It's going to be nice command mech. It's going to do just about every job a heavy you ask of it. Let's see, Orion. And another favorite here, the Crusader. It's a mech I think it's a little underrated. Because honestly, if you look at it on paper, it does so many things on the design wrong. SRMs in the legs. Generally, you don't want weapons in your legs. LRMs in the fists, as well as the lasers and the machine guns. All its armor is stored in the torsos, so it does have a reputation of exploding. But oftentimes I think people get a little too aggressive with this mech. It kind of wants to stay behind a little bit. Use its LRM-15s kind of in the support role. And if anything gets close enough to it, it's got the firepower to say, go away. Or if you got a highly wounded opponent, you can walk up to them and say hi with 12 SRM, well, 2 SRM-6s. I mean, that's something any wounded mech doesn't want to see. If you decide to play this mech a lot, there are going to be points you're going to lose it. But if you're a little bit more conservative with it, you're going to see a lot of results. Not to mention, this new Mini is beautiful compared to the old. And you can see it was a Malcross Valkyrie. It was the armored one, but not so much anymore. I would recommend going heavy as opposed to light first, because probably the next one I would get is either the Heavy Lance or the Striker. And then I'd probably get the Urban and the Support last. I mean, generally, you're gonna want the mediums out of the Heavy Lance, Centurion and Hatchet Man, as well as the Heavy, the Grasshopper. Also, the Banshee 3S in particular. I mean, the Banshee, it's got a little bit of a bad reputation being bad firepower. 3S is different. Striker, that's where you're going to get your heavier lights. Your Jenner, your Panther, your Wolfhound, and you're also getting the medium, the Blackjack. Blackjack's another important medium. Oftentimes used as a bodyguard, sniper. I generally play it in bigger lances because it seems to want to play with the big boys. And then the support, well, it's got the Dragon, the Spider, which is another fairly good scout, the Thug, which is a very, very nice assault, and it has the Cyclops, which it's a little bit flavor mech, but it's an assault that has the BV of a heavy. It could surprise you what you get out of it if you're careful with it. It's got a little light armor, but it's got most of an Atlas's firepower. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm probably eventually doing one with my books here. Plus also I've got episode 2 of my Merc campaign just about finished. A lot of things to come here, and hopefully get it all done within the month. All right. Hope everyone has a happy gaming here, and goodbye until next time.